Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you as we put the finishing touches on the regular season. There's still one game to be played, and it's a big one, an historic one this evening between the Lions and the Vikings. But the regular season, as far as the Giants and the Jets, mercifully has been put to rest, and the Giants went out the way their fans wanted them to go out, with a loss. And clearly today, it was very, very obvious that there were designs by the Giants not to push the envelope. Neighbors sitting a lot in the second half, some of the players put in the game, some of the decisions, including even going on 4th and 7 early in the game. I mean, that set up the first Eagle touchdown. The Giants wanted this result today, so they wind up locking up the third spot in the draft, and we await what the future holds on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube. And the Jets, well, they at least will go out in what will we all assume to be Aaron Rodgers' final game. We know there's no relationship between he and the owner. Is this his final game as a Jet? Yes. Is this his final game in his career? We don't know. And again today, he gave you a reminder of what he is. I mean, with a 23 for 36 for 274 and 4 touchdowns, hooking up for his 500th, hooking up again with Devontae Adams. Even on the 3rd and 8, after the Dolphins scored, the back shoulder throw one more time to just show you what those two can do. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question that Aaron Rodgers can still play. Is he Aaron Rodgers? No. Is he the best quarterback in the world anymore? No. And clearly, at times this year, he was hurt by terrible coaching. He was hurt by porous offensive line. He was hurt by his own injuries to whatever he was nursing that kept him unbalanced when he was on the move. And he had to get rid of the ball too early, way too often. But the guy winds up with 28 touchdown passes and 11 INTs. At least 5 of the INTs weren't his fault, and at least 6 touchdown drops. So, I mean, you could be looking at 30-something touchdown passes for this guy. What Jet quarterbacks do that? I mean, he clearly can still play. He can run an offense, and especially if you put him in the right situation with a running game, with a competent coaching staff or a good coaching staff and a good offensive line, he'll run your team. I don't think there's any question about that, but it won't be here. We know that as the Jets move on. Now, the one development we've had already is Vrabel has cleared the path for New England. He used the Jets this week to push the Pats' hands. The Pats made the move. They got rid of Mayo, and now it's wide open for Vrabel to go to New England. Forget the Jets, to go to New England, most likely with Josh McDaniel back as his offensive coordinator. So he will return to the place he's wanted to coach and what he considers home. And that Jets' thoughts of Vrabel can go out the window. The Jets will continue their search with Rex Ryan. They will interview others, including the interim head coach. Now, no jokes. Hey, I don't want to get into that, but obviously he's not a candidate, nor is anybody on the staff. So we'll see where that takes us with the general manager, with the head coach. The Giants, far more complicated, far more mysterious. What happens now? There's been reports that the GM stays and Dable goes. I don't know that. I've told you all along, I think the Giants are clearly reluctant to make the change. I don't know if they feel they can go out and get better right now. I think they're worried to go out and go through the process again. I don't know what's going to happen. I've told you along, my gut was that they'd both be back. The reports that the GM was staying and Dable's out, I don't know if that's accurate or not. The information I heard today, and again, from a good source, but again, They even told me it wasn't 100%. The thought was that they would both be back. That was after the game. But my understanding is there's some things that Dable's going to have to agree to in terms of philosophy and staff and how things are done if he's going to continue. So a lot of times a guy can go in and get himself fired. I mean, that can happen too. I don't know where they're headed there. Like I said, all along, okay, uh, all along, I have felt that they would keep them. That was just my gut feeling. I don't know anything. I haven't talked to the Giants. I have no relationship with them anymore, really. So I don't know. I'm not telling you I know. I'm just telling you what I've assumed all along. And the idea of them splitting the blanket, I find surprising. I don't know if that's an accurate situation, but my gut has been all along that they would stay. They would be back for another year, and I would still go that way right now. But again, I don't know. And like I said, the only thing I was told was it wasn't 100% that he's back, but that they were definitely the feeling was they thought he was going to be back, but he would have to accept some conditions. Now, what those conditions are, I don't know. Okay, might be staff, might be philosophy, might be certain people they want to give them, might be certain way that they run the franchise. I don't know. Might be play calling. It could be a lot of different things. Okay, he hasn't gotten along with his coaches well. He's had some issues with his, with getting along with people recently. So I don't know where we are with that. But on Sunday evening, I still get the idea he might be back. I really do, despite all the reports. And nothing's been firm, but there have been reports. One circulated last night and today that he was going to be out and the GM was staying. I don't know about that. Um, the only person I talked to today said they thought that they were both going to be back. But again, not 100%, and conditions had to be agreed to. So we'll see where that stands. You'll find out very quickly. If he's going, he goes tomorrow. That's the way it happens. Hey, that's what Black Monday's for. You clean everything out tomorrow. If you're going to do it, you do it tomorrow. By tomorrow, late afternoon, you will know who's going and who's not going. And we have some guys around the league. We're going to see what happens. We know certain guys. We know what jobs are open. Okay, we know other guys who are gone. We know the automatics. If everybody goes who could go, I think the number would be 8. I think the number would be probably less than 8. Let's see what happens with McCarthy. He would get another job immediately. He might want another job. He might ask if he can go negotiate. If he does that, he's out of Dallas. We know that. I don't know where Dallas stands on this. Okay, they've been very, very quiet about his future, one way or the other. So we'll wait and see what happens there. We'll wait and see what happens with the Giants. Obviously, the Jets are already into the process, but those who were pushing Vrabel and thought Vrabel was a big candidate for the Jets, it's not true. Vrabel wanted the Pat job all along. He used the Jets to push the issue. There's no question about that now. And I mean, unless something shocking happens, and I don't think it will, he's going back to New England. So, I mean, they cleared the deck for him today to bring him back. I mean, that's why they got rid of Mayo so quickly, so that Vrabel didn't wind up somewhere else in the next couple of days. So they didn't want him. They wanted him back in New England. Now, the only one who was reluctant to make the change so quickly was Kraft, the elder Kraft. We'll see, why he went that way. I think it was because they thought they were going to lose Vrabel, and they didn't want to lose him. And they especially didn't want to lose him in the division, if that was going to happen. Now, Rex Ryan's making a lot of noise. I'd be very surprised if Rex Ryan gets the job. I really would. Very surprised. They've been there, done that. Things like that don't usually work well the second time around. I do not expect him. I'd be more interested in Rex myself if he'd come back as a defensive coordinator with the ability to speak, which is important to him, with a nice salary, the ability to run his defense, and really carve out the role for him with the Jets that Buddy had with the Bears. I would be willing to give him that role, but I don't want him as head coach. I don't want him as head coach. And At the end, it was a nightmare. He was winning with other people's players. It was a nightmare, and everything that followed was a nightmare. So I don't want Rex as head coach again. Where they're going, hey, it's fair to say that the Jet situation is completely, completely wide open. We will do Black Monday tomorrow. Okay, we will do it in its total tomorrow. The only guy who's gone so far officially, other than the guys who were gone during the season, is Mayo. He was gone right after the game. He probably knew before the game. We'll see what the Giants do. We know the Jets are already well into the process of looking for a general manager and a coach, and we'll be interviewing people promptly this week. We know that. And we know there's other jobs where they're going to be looking for new coaches. Obviously, Jacksonville, the Raiders, we can go down the line. Now, the playoffs. I've told you many times, I learned this lesson a long time ago. Teams will fight to the death to get into the postseason. They will not fight for seeding. Now, I'm not telling you Pittsburgh didn't try last night, but they were already in the playoffs. And the teams that were in the playoffs that could have helped themselves with seeding today, the only one that really jumped up when they were comfortable was the Chargers. Rams lost, sat people, Packers, ditto, okay? Was the Chargers because Harbaugh didn't want to play his brother in the first round. Plus, he gets a winnable game, but he also didn't want to play his brother in the first round. You knew that going in. Okay. And I'm sure he would have liked to rest people today, but he didn't do that because he wanted to make sure that he didn't play his brother in the first round. Now he won't. So the playoffs are set. We don't know what days yet. They will do that. By the time the Viking Lion game is about to be decided tonight, you will see, voila, on your screen, you will see the matchups and who's playing what day. Now, the matchups, though, are set. Denver, which was ultra impressive today in a game that Kansas City treated like a preseason game, to be fair. I mean, Knicks was 17 for 17 for 3 touchdowns, in the second quarter. So we know that this was not Kansas City today. Their mentality was nothing. They didn't do anything. They were there just to finish the game, and 38-0 was the result. Now, Denver plays at Buffalo. Be smart. Completely dismiss today's performance. Denver's got a good defense. They have a franchise quarterback in the making in Knicks in this his first year. I told you all along I thought Knicks and Peyton from the start of the year was going to be a good matchup. It's been a better than good matchup. Now, but remember, these guys are going to Buffalo to play in an incredible setting against a bona fide Super Bowl team with a great star quarterback. This is a rough challenge. They, in my mind, are not ready for that yet. But don't get caught up in the 38-0 today. Do not, because that will be a mistake. Now, Chargers and Texans, great matchup for the Chargers. They stay away from Harbaugh and Baltimore. They get a game they can absolutely win. I don't think there's any question. Houston has been awful. They've coasted to the playoffs, but they've been a bad team this year. And then you have Pitt, which has gone into the playoffs now, losing 4 in a row, is a mess offensively. And you might say, well, they always historically play great against Baltimore. Not right now. They might be able to get a pass rush. They'll always do that. They'll hit you hard. They'll always do that. They are a mess right now. And I don't see them as a serious threat to the Ravens. If they beat the Ravens next week, I will be stunned. Stunned. Okay, I think the Ravens are ready for this. So you got Denver and Buffalo. You have the Chargers in Houston, and you have Pittsburgh in Baltimore. Now, if the Rams had cared or worried about it, they almost won the game with Garoppolo at quarterback and none of their big players playing. No Stafford, no starting wide receiver, no starting running back. Other key guys out, offense, defense. They almost beat Seattle. They didn't. They had the ball late. They didn't score. Garoppolo had a pretty decent game considering he hasn't played all year. But the Rams now are the 4. Tampa with their win today, which was hard fought. New Orleans played well today. They pushed Tampa to the brink. And Tampa finally got the game to an 8-point lead and won the game. Tampa moves up to the 3. They now get Washington. So Green Bay is at Philly. They're the 7. They lose today. They're the 7. Green Bay at Philly is a great first-round game. That is a great game. I mean, Philly's a serious Super Bowl contender. But Green Bay is only a 3.5-point underdog. Why? Because they're a darn good team. They are a dangerous team. If I'm Philly, I don't want to open the playoffs against Green Bay. That is going to be a tough game, a classic game. Washington against Tampa. Plenty of offense there. And the Rams will host the loser. But they will be hosting a 14-win team in either the Vikings or possibly the defensive liability that Detroit is now. They will be maybe hosting a hurting Detroit team on defense if they can't win tonight against Minnesota. And that game's not a given considering how bad Detroit has looked on defense and looked on defense against San Francisco. If you take back in that game 2 missed field goals that they should have made, missed extra point that they should have made, and 2 bad Purdy throws, which were really inexplicable because he wasn't under that much pressure and he made 2 bad throws, they would have scored 45 points against the Lions. They were tearing the Lions up in that game. Minnesota's got a lot of weapons and a lot of firepower. This is going to be a very, very tough game for the Lions tonight. I'm not saying the Lions can't win it. They can with their offense and their offensive line, and they can beat you, 40-37. But it's probably going to have to be that kind of showdown tonight. Now, the loser gets the Rams. The winner gets a bye. Think about that. You not only have 2 14-win teams playing for the division title and for the number 1 seed tonight in an historic game, but you go from the 1. Think about the fall for the Lions if they lose tonight. They have been the number 1 seed the entire year. And now they could lose and fall to the 5 tonight. No home games. The road. All right, would they be favored over the Rams in the first round? Yes. But you know what? It's not an easy game against the Rams in their building. And the Rams have firepower. And right now, any kind of firepower is something that scares the heck out of Detroit because their defense is completely injury-riddled. They've lost 9 of their top 22 players, including 3 or 4 of their top 5 players, depending on how you look at it. You have Green Bay at Philly, Washington at Tampa Bay, and the Rams hosting the loser of Detroit and Minnesota. The winner of Detroit, Minnesota gets the bye, and obviously the 1 seed throughout the NFC playoffs. Kansas City, which suffered its second loss today, but again, lost 1 game in real terms this season, will be the 1 seed. They will be well rested, and everything has to go through Kansas City again this year. So they will be the 1 seed for as long as they play in the AFC right now. And again, I said this to you last week. I may have to change my tune tonight. They made me change it last week because they beat Green Bay. They win tonight, and I have to completely change it. But right now, I see 6 teams that can get to the Super Bowl. I put 6 teams in that group. Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore in the AFC. No surprises there. Detroit, despite their injuries, no longer a heavy favorite, but still have to be there. Philly and Green Bay. I don't put Minnesota in there yet. And I know that I'm being unfair to them, but tonight is the acid test, and they'll show me what they've got this evening. They win this game tonight, I say I'm sorry, and they're in the group. And if they do to the Lions what teams have done to them, the Lions in the last 4 weeks are one of the worst defensive teams in the NFL. Their defensive numbers are absurdly bad. So I don't know that they can do better right now on defense. We have to see. They're going to move the ball, even though Minnesota can blitz, even though Minnesota can disrupt the quarterback. You know that offensive line, which is the best in the sport. Some people say Philly. I don't buy it. The best line in the sport is Detroit, anchored by the best offensive lineman in the sport, in Panay Sewell at right tackle for Detroit. I think the Lions is the best two-way line in the league. They'll give him time to pass. They're going to move the football. They're going to run the football. They're going to pass the football. They're going to make explosive plays. That's who they are. Okay, we know that. Nobody can stop the Lions from scoring. There's not a team in this league that can shut the Lions down offensively. Nobody. They are, in my mind, the best offensive team. The second best offensive team is Baltimore with a healthy Andrews, with a healthy Flowers, with a healthy Bateman, and both of them got nicked up yesterday. And obviously, with the quarterback and the running back, they are the second best offensive team in the sport. Not Buffalo, despite the brilliance of their quarterback. Baltimore. Detroit, Baltimore. But while Baltimore's gotten better on defense since they've made the personnel move in the secondary, the Lions have completely been decimated since Thanksgiving, when things started to fall apart defensively for them with all the injuries. Tonight, can they shut down a Minnesota passing attack that has been overwhelmingly good? Now, Sam is still, despite his brilliant season and his strong arm and his chemistry with his receivers, Sam is still a quarterback who makes mistakes. He'll hold the ball too long in the pocket. He'll throw the ball in the wrong spot. His play in the big game is, to me, still something that has to be inspected tonight. I've always been a Sam fan. Anyone who's listening to me knows that. I always knew he had this kind of talent. He has gotten so much more comfortable. And what I like about him now is one mistake doesn't knock him off his game, which is critical if you're going to be a big-time player in this league, and especially be a big-time quarterback. Because you have to be able to shake off an interception. You have to be able to shake off a bad decision or a bad play. You get stripped of the ball in the pocket, get the ball back. You throw a pick six, get the ball back. Answer it with a touchdown. That's what the great ones do. That's what the winners do. And Sam's got to be able to do that. And so far this year, he's done it really well. So we have finished the regular season. The Giants go out the way all you Giant fans wanted them to go out tonight, with a loss. So it's Tennessee with the 1. It's Cleveland with the 2nd pick. It's the Giants with the 3rd pick. The Giants will be able to get a quarterback from the 3rd pick. They'll be able to trade up if they want. They'll be able to maneuver if they want. They will be able to make trades if they want. So if they want to go to Minnesota for a quarterback, it's not going to be Daniel Jones. But if they do, they can make a trade there. If they want to make a pick at the 3, they can get a quarterback. If they want to move up, they can do that from the 3. 2 teams in front of them are not settled at quarterback. So, but are there 2 quarterbacks in this draft worthy to be taken in the top 2? The question I would ask is, are there any quarterbacks in this draft worthy to be taken in the top 5? Right now, I think the answer is no. So the Giants might look elsewhere. But now they first have to make a decision. We'll find out right away. None of us know exactly what the Giants are going to do. There's been a great debate about it. As I've told you all year, my gut was that they'd both be back. Let's see what happens. And for Rodgers, I'll tell you this. I will miss him. I was fascinated this year to watch that player, although he wasn't what he used to be. And there were a lot of things that went against him, including his own, at times, lack of mobility. And for him, his body not allowing him to make the throws that he used to make as second nature. He was as deadly accurate a quarterback as I've ever seen, and as good on the move. And you saw some of that again today. You've seen bits of it this year. I mean, 28 touchdown passes, 11 intercepts. Hey, if it had been in the right spots, in the right moments, would have been plenty. They led the league in drops. They didn't protect him. Their time management was awful. Think about it. Denver, Minnesota, Buffalo the first time, New England, the Colts, Seattle, Miami. 7 games. They won 5. They could have won every one of those games. They led 5 in the fourth quarter that they lost. Coaching, time management, kicking problems, defensive breakdowns, penalties, mistakes at the line of scrimmage, drops, everything played into them falling apart with leads. This team could have won 10 or 11 games without even working up a sweat. It was awful to watch, painful to watch. They were so close. This wasn't like they weren't competitive. They gave games away. They gave games away by not using the timeouts properly. They gave games away by not handling the game situation right. They gave games away by missing extra points and missing chip shot field goals. They gave games away with defensive breakdowns and penalties in the wrong spots and terrible decisions. Hard to watch. If they, you know, they always say the saddest words are what might have been. This could have easily have been a playoff team this year. Easily. Sad. It didn't work out. Now, do I believe for a second that these are the 2 best years of his life? No, he's full of baloney. He's always been full of baloney. Who cares what he says? Who cares what he tells McAfee? Who cares? Nobody cares. I don't care what he says or anything else. I just care when he plays. And you know what? He can still play. That's the sad part. I know he did some stupid things here. And they let him. And the relationship's disintegrated. And Woody screwed it up. But Woody could screw up a one-car funeral. We know that. And he might screw it up again now. I mean, he probably will. It was sad because you had a chance to be touched by a quarterback who was special. And this thing just the culture of that franchise and the ineptitude of the coaching just would not allow them to succeed. It was sad to watch. It really was. We're going to come back after the Lion game tonight. We're going to know everything in its rightful place. We'll know who's playing where. We'll go over the lines. We'll go over everything as we get ready for a couple of great weeks of football, which is what we have next weekend on Wild Card weekend. The week after that with Divisional weekend. Don't add up how many games you got left because you know what? You don't have a lot. It dwindles down to a precious few very quickly. And Sunday at 1 is already a memory until next September. And I, for one, will always miss Sunday at 1 when it's not available. We'll see you later.